Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to be covering vector marketing and why you may not want to work for them. For those who don't know, vector marketing is a sales arm of Cutco Corporation, a company which sells knives and other kitchenware. To begin, I want to cover my own short experience with vector, as I think it's relevant for understanding the exact fucked up nature of the company. I was first reached out to by Vector Marketing via direct message on a job search website. Immediately, this is where the shady business began. At first glance, the message seemed as though it was personalized towards me. The woman who sent me the message claimed to have looked at my profile on the job search site and commended my desire to improve my public speaking skills, and that the position she was promoting would help me do as such while all around bolstering my resume. For context, my profile on the site has no information regarding me seeking to improve my public speaking skills. In fact, the only thing I had on my profile besides my name, major, school, and GPA was my resume, which noted my exceptional public speaking and communication skills. Additionally, the message had no information on the position at all, really, just a link to apply. At this point, I figured that I had simply gotten some sort of form message, or that the sender just sort of made some kind of mistake. Either way, because I was looking for work and figured there was no downside into looking into the position a bit more, I decided to go with the link and see what the job was about. When I clicked the link, though, the site I was brought to had very little information. In fact, it was mostly blank, and there was no information on the position at all. Instead, it asked for some basic details: my name, when I could start, and my preferred method of contact, as well as highlighting how limited the positions available were and that I had to apply ASAP if I even wanted to be considered. With the same justifications as before, I dumbly pressed on, and about 30 minutes later, I got a text message from a second person, a different person from the one who sent me the initial message on the job search site. This person asked me if I would like to do an interview for the position. This time, though, I was actually finally provided some information about the job, although it was kept very vague. The person who texted me simply said, "It's a lot to explain over text, but basically, you'll be talking with customers, answering questions, and helping place orders." She also talked about the pay in a clearly deceptive way that I'll go over later in the video. This sounded a lot like a job I held previously, a customer support role. I figured I wouldn't mind doing another summer of that, so I graciously agreed to an interview later that day over a video call. When the time rolled around for my interview, I had received a meeting link and joined. I was met with a third new person who introduced himself, but when I introduced myself back, I was cut off, and I realized he could not hear me. For a second, I thought I had a technical problem, but my misconception was cleared instantly when he said that he was interviewing a group. I couldn't see anyone else though, just my interviewer. Of course, leading up to this point, I was given no indication this would be a group interview. On the contrary, the language used in the text conversation implied that it would be a one-on-one interview. Once again, this is a little strange, but with my same justifications as before, I pressed on. The interview consisted of us watching a sales pitch video about the product, where I finally learned what we would be doing at the job. We weren't going to be customer support, we were going to be salespeople. The video really played up how great of a company Vector was to work for, and how their sales approach is unique and based on grassroots word of mouth and puts focus on not being a pushy salesman. I'm slightly ashamed to say that they actually hooked me pretty good, and I thought this was going to be a pretty great opportunity for me. After the video, the interviewer continued to talk about how great the company was and how great it is to work there and how happy all of the workers are. He asked us no questions about ourselves, and there were no standard interview questions either. Actually, we didn't even speak to him over that video call. Also clarified at this point was how the compensation system worked. Rather than being paid hourly, we would be paid by each sales appointment completed, $20 per appointment, or if we actually made a sale, we would get paid commission. But not both, only whichever one was higher. After about 20 minutes, the interview concluded with the interviewer sending us another link to another application and told us we were to fill it out and he would look it over and give us calls for individual interviews. The final application was a Google form, and once again, we had no standard interview questions on it, just more of the same basic questions. A lot of questions I was actually already asked in the previous applications. My name, contact details, and when I'd be available to start, although this time there were some random fluff questions thrown in about hobbies and interests. After filling it out, I got a call about 10 minutes later from the interviewer who immediately gave away that he didn't read over my application because he asked about my major despite it being written directly in one of the fluff questions. The phone interview was a joke. He asked me what I thought about the company and position, and really, I could tell no matter what I said he was going to offer me a job. And he promptly did. I accepted with reservation, and he signed me up for their training the following Wednesday. At this point, my outlook changed completely as I made a quick Google search of vector marketing and found wave after wave of negative results. And suddenly, all the red flags leading up to that point became painfully clear. And after a couple hours of pondering, I became more and more certain of the reality of the situation I was in. Luckily, I had signed no papers with imperative personal information. I blocked each number and email address from the company and carried on with the rest of my night feeling deceived, frustrated, and quite frankly sick to my stomach. I had hoped to forget about vector marketing and move on, but over the next couple of days I couldn't get the situation out of my head. And the more I thought about it, the more fucked up I realized how everything was, and that's why I decided to make this video. Now that I finished covering my personal experience, I want to rewind and closely examine each step of the process and explain exactly why working for vector marketing is a scam and break down each and every occurrence of deception throughout their recruiting process. Before that, though, I want to make one clarification, as I wouldn't really be doing my job if I mischaracterized the company, and frankly, I don't need the extra push to make my point. There are a lot of claims online that vector marketing is a pyramid scheme. Technically, it's not, though, for the sake of legal purposes. They just barely scrape by. But in reality, it may as well be one. With that out of the way, I want to get back and examine the initial message I got on the job search site. I already mentioned my confusion with that message, but now with hindsight, I realize it wasn't some mistake. This person was being outright deceptive. If I were to guess, improving public speaking skills must be a pretty common aspect on people's profiles on the job search site, and so the form aspect there I don't really care about. What I do care about is crap like, we have found that students are looking to gain the skills that we help build, and fortunately, our company, unlike many, offers a stable base pay. These are statements that make important claims, but are not elaborated on despite only needing an additional sentence, or even really a few extra words to do so. Next is the text conversation I had. This was probably the most egregious part of the entire process. As I stated before, the conversation implied the interview was going to be one-on-one. A mix-up that, once again, could have been completely clarified with the addition of a single purposefully left-out word, group. Each and every word in the text message is complete and written in a actually quite professional way, except for one. And it's in the sentence, we offer a starting pay of $20 base APPT. Now, in hindsight, APPT is obviously appointment, but why is that the one word here that's abbreviated? It doesn't really make sense. And well, it didn't initially. Once again, this was a miscommunication that could have been prevented by saying a couple extra words. We offer a base starting pay of $20 per completed sales appointment. Why didn't they just say that? It was only a little bit longer. Well, they were intentionally trying to deceive me. They wanted me to be confused about what APPT meant. They wanted me to just assume it meant $20 an hour, which is pretty insane for a summer college job. But Vector Marketing isn't interested in making their intentions clear, they're interested in exploitation. Finally, we get to the granddaddy, the worst part. It's a little long to explain over text, but basically, you'd be talking with customers, answering questions, and helping place orders. What the fuck? At this point, we have exited Sly territory and entered, fuck you, we want to trick you, and we don't care that we have to deceive you to get what we want territory. This isn't something that needed clarification. This is a sentence that should have been completely rewritten. Something like, it's a little long to explain over text, but basically, you'd be a sales rep doing virtual appointments to sell Cutco products. I actually used less characters in that sentence compared to the original just to dispel the bullshit about it being too long to explain. Finally, this brings us to the video interview and subsequent over-the-phone interview. Once we were all lured in, all information was finally revealed. Unfortunately, because I was so deep in at this point, I figured I'd just go with it, which is exactly what they were hoping for. First of all, we would not be compensated for training, a projected 18 hours of training. If this sounds weird to you, that's because it is. Almost no companies do this, as it's a clear sign of bad faith between the employer and the employee. They claim it's because they're investing in you as a salesperson and because they're so graciously providing you with this wonderful opportunity. But really, it's just that they are expecting you to be an expendable pawn. They aren't actually investing anything in you. Next, the interviewer broke down the sales structure. We wouldn't be selling to random people. Instead, we would be required to start by doing presentations to family and friends with the expectation of having them refer us to further potential interested customers. This is in all senses of the phrase fucked up. Have you ever heard the advice, don't go into business with friends and family, it will ruin your relationships? Well, this is basically that. The product I would have been selling wasn't some bargain yet decently high quality product. It was very much so an ultra premium high cost product. Cutco knife sets range from $1,000 to greater than $3,000. And it doesn't matter how good the product works, no one, and I mean no one, needs a $200 knife for a home kitchen. Cutco and Vector know this, and that's why they trick college-age students into finding their customers for them. Everyone has friends and family, and if yours care about you as much as mine care about me, they probably would want to help you out and buy one of those knives as a gesture of goodwill. But transactions like that tend not to sit right with people, especially if there's any doubt regarding the ethics of the company behind it. And sure, for some people this wouldn't be a problem, maybe their loved ones have very deep pockets. But for the majority of us middle and lower class folks, well, you don't really need me to explain it to you. Go ask your parents if they would buy a $1,000 knife set. Then ask them if they know anyone who might be interested in buying a $1,000 knife set. I can almost guarantee you the answer would be a no, and maybe even a laugh, as the idea is so absurd it's comical. But what if it was you selling the knife set to them? The odds suddenly look a lot better. Thus, lo and behold, Vector Marketing's true intentions. You see, they don't actually expect you to branch out with referral after referral and do tons of presentations and make tons of money. No, they just want to make a quick buck off of those around you. And once that revenue source is quickly dried up, they can toss you aside like yesterday's garbage, with no effort, I might add, since you would be considered an independent contractor. Anyways, that wraps up the breakdown of the deception I experienced, but there are a few key things I wanted to throw in just to further show why there's very, very little reason to work for Vector Marketing. First is that the company went through a multitude of lawsuits over the years, with almost all of them ending in settlement. These are all included in the company's Wikipedia page, and I highly recommend you look them over. The reason Vector continues to operate the same ways, using deception and misdirection to get workers, even after all the lawsuits, is that it is simply more profitable for them to do so. The company makes massive amounts of money. In 2019, they made $273.8 million. And according to my interviewer, they made even more in 2020 and were projected to make even more than that in 2021. Getting into trouble every so often and paying a few million in settlement barely affects the company's bottom line at all, and so it's simply better for them to just continue with their underhanded methods. Second is that this may be one of the few jobs in the entire world you wouldn't want to put on your resume. Just think about it. The company is well known for tricking gullible students and having a horrible, shady reputation. Any type of association with them is going to make you look bad and maybe even a little dumb. Third is that the pay isn't even that good. Sure, $20 an appointment or commission sounds like you could make a lot of money, but how many appointments would you realistically get? Honestly, not that many. Again, Vector isn't looking for salespeople, it's looking for a few customers. They know you aren't going to get that many appointments before your well dries up. That's why they can afford to give base pay. It's just a carrot on a stick. More than likely, you would walk away with maybe at most a couple hundred, with no work experience to put on your resume and a lot of wasted time you could have just spent at another job making, actual stable pay. Fourth is this chick. If you Google search the company name, you may have seen it recommended. Yeah, she's very clearly still an employee for Vector. I mean, she didn't even really try to hide it. Well, that concludes this video. A link to the company's Wikipedia page will be in the description if you want more info on its history and lawsuits. Thanks for watching. I hope I was able to save a couple summer vacations. And as for any Vector representatives watching this video, I hope you think about me laughing, knowing I made you evil fucks lose a few sales. And a special message directed to my interviewer. If you ever come across this video, Mr. RD, no, you don't deserve a courtesy email. You deserve a courtesy fall down a flight of courtesy stairs. Get a real job, you greasy slime ball. Or, oh wait, I'm guessing you can't since you're in a little too deep, aren't you? Huh.